please feel free to do so. So with that, I'd like to introduce John De Fries, who's going to moderate the panel. Most of you know John's passion and commitment to Hawaii and its culture and people. For the past 35 years, John has worked in the hospitality and tourism field. That kind of makes me feel old, John. Advising businesses on ways to ensure the preservation of our cultural relevance in their work. And as president of Friends for the Future, John has been thinking deeply about these issues for decades and has been instrumental in shaping the cultural context for the visit by His Holiness. So we're extremely honored, and I'm eternally grateful to John for all of his help that he's given us. And welcome John De Fries, the moderator of today's panel. John was also my bodyguard in high school.
We'll share this story with all due respect to our wives, but Kelvin and I in high school dated sisters. And so our first lesson in tolerance was the tolerance that the parents of those two girls had to let Kelvin and I in their home. So little did we know that prepared us for today. Let me just start out by saying that the jury's already in on one subject. We are not here to explore the relevance of Native cultures in modern times or Native intelligence in modern times. The fact is that through the act of humans, our environment, the watersheds, the coastal zones, the land areas that we hold dear to us are being consumed at a rate that has suspect planning tied to it, that has us all concerned, and deep in our guts, we have all this anxiety built up. Now, today, His Holiness, after spending the last day and a half with him, will echo a very positive sentiment about the universal responsibility that we all have as inhabitants of this planet. And that specific idea of universal responsibility starts for all of us in this room with the kuleana that we feel to these islands. What happens here today is the start of something that all of us have wanted to see, is to help not only ease this tension, but I was asked by Nainoa, what do you want the audience to feel when they leave here today? Part of what we want you to feel is the discomfort, and get a relationship with that discomfort so that it begins to reframe the way we look at our island home. We cannot serve the larger universal responsibility without first serving the responsibility we have here. Before we go any further, I want to introduce a very dear friend who came from Kona last night, Mahilani Pai. Where's Mahilani? Please. Mahilani will start this panel off with a chant called Haumea Kalani. And we're forever indebted to Mahilani for agreeing to join us this morning. Please. Mahalo, Mahilani. The Haumea Kalani is about, it describes what the universal responsibility really is. And in its closing lines, it talks about being sacred, being firm, so Hawaii can live forever. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our two, oh, okay. I love this. This is what I love about this. Please rise. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Oh,
water
yes,
stream
yes.
in the sky. And my inquiry is, where does one get breath that, where do I get my breath that I can, in which I can share with, breath is life. And I asked the rock, and I asked the river, and I asked him, and I asked the baby, and I asked the clouds, may I share your breath? May I
Wonderful.
share your breath so that we may live?
Thank you. What's your hairstyle? Local? Thank you. Yeah, that one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I would ask that Pua and Nainoa also going to join His Holiness on the stage at this time. And I would like to thank Kekuhi Kanahele for that mele inoa, inspired by two deities, Kane and Kanaloa. It speaks of Kaneloa. Kanaloa's elemental elements include the sun and fresh water. Kane's elemental elements include the sun and fresh water. Kanaloa, the depths of the ocean. And in this, the inspiration to from His Holiness is both the conscious mind, the consciousness, and the absence of consciousness. And thank you, Kekuhi, for that mele inoa.
Good morning.
Good morning, good to see you.
Oh, so. Since yesterday, we become close friends.
Let's go eat.
I found, what's it, a new friend, very strong body. Very good. Ka. Oh. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is Chinese style, Mother. Your dress, Chinese style, isn't it? Mixed one. Oh, please.
You know, before we sit, I'd like for everybody to please join us in singing the first verse to Hawaii Pono'i. Sing it twice until we get it right. Okay? Bernard, would you lead us? Yeah. Hawaii Pono'i. Hawaii Pono'i, Kauai. Eh, eh. I Pono'i, nana I komoi, kalani ali ke ali. Makua lani e kameha, meha e na kaua e pale. Thank you. You may be seated. We're so grateful that His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, could travel from India to be with us today. Before we begin, I'd like to share with you a little background that is quite remarkable. His Holiness was born in 1935 in a small village in Tibet. At age 2, he was recognized to be the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama. He began his monastic education at age 6, and at the age of 15, the Dalai Lama assumed full political power as the leader of Tibet. At 19 years old, he traveled to China for peace talks to meet with Mao Zedong and other leaders. However, at the age of 23, His Holiness was forced to leave his home and flee into neighboring country of India. Shortly before leaving Tibet, His Holiness passed his final exams, awarding him the equivalent of a doctorate in Buddhist philosophy. So between the ages of 15 and 23, the Dalai Lama had earned advanced educational degrees and was taking on responsibilities as his nation's spiritual and political leader. In the decades since then, His Holiness has shared his message of compassion and nonviolence in the world. He consistently advocates for peaceful solutions based on dialogue and shared understanding. Among his many awards are the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989 and a U.S. Congressional Gold Medal in 2007. This year alone, he received the Mahatma Gandhi International Award for Reconciliation and Peace and the Templeton Prize. Our native culture in Hawaii echoes the essential messages of peace that His Holiness stands for. And it is with great honor to have him here today. Your Holiness, welcome. You are among a room full of brothers and sisters. Would you please share with us your experiences yesterday when we had the opportunity to tour Bishop Museum at Iolani Palace, and you also spoke to many thousands. I love that visor. You know.
Suppose reincarnated person remember past life. But my case, even what happened yesterday, sometimes difficult to remember. I think on the level of human being, I very much sort of enjoy and also impressed. Since day before yesterday, I reached here, and then yesterday, the audience, old and young, the full smile, very friendly attitude. So that I very much enjoy. It shows we are human brothers, sisters. I always stress we all now over 7 billion human beings, mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. Then next, each, I say, community, I don't know, I think proper word, I don't know. I think community, because they are sort of environment, I think including height and also the temperature. I think Tibet, high altitude and cold. Usually we Tibetan ourselves used to describe land of snow. So according to that environment, we have our own cultural heritage. Now you, mid-sea, sort of today, vast sea in the center, on island. I think always, perhaps I think hot, isn't it? Do you ever receive some snow? Some high mountain, some snow. Oh. Oh. So, and your life very much sort of related with sea, including fish. So you have, according to that sort of environment, that sort of reality, you develop your own certain way of life and cultural heritage. So the culture not come from, let's say, from some organization or something, but evolution's way, it developed. So it suit, it fit the concerned people. So therefore, they say, I think the field of the modernity, modernization. I feel modernization mainly related with external development, building. Nowadays is missions, cars, and these are different sort of missions, technology. But people still remain, I think, basically, it's the same 1,000-year-old sort of the community. So culture, which you see develop according to your own sort of environment or your own sort of way of life. So it is very, very important. External material development. Meantime, still preserve your own cultural heritage. Then you get, I think, not only kept your own identity, but also, you see, it helped, I think, because of the mental sort of way of thinking. So that helped to, I think, peace of mind. If we human beings truly become part of mission, that is terrible. We must keep our own sort of cultural heritage, including your language. So yesterday, Maria, I met some school, children who taught your own language.
The immersion program.
Oh, so these are good. So I didn't have opportunity to test your own native food. I don't know. What kind of food? Native, unique native food. What is that? What is that? What's a boy, sir? If possible, I want to test, to test. And also I have the freedom whether I should eat or swallow or not. That is my right. At least to see, smell, test. That's important. So that's my impression. So you are here, I think, very much concerned about preservation of your own identity, your own language, your own cultural heritage. So that's why the first day of 1.5 day.
No.
That's my impression. So that's all. Then
That's big.
We can discuss this further. I want to make clear, whenever I meet people, I never I never pay the formality. Completely informal way. After all, we are same human being. No barrier, isn't it? Except the language. Oh, that I don't know. But you see, we can exchange our smile, isn't it? Exchange our through eye. It's some kind of friendship, trust. That's the sign of we are same human being. Even to some extent, even other animals, dogs, monkeys, cats. I think we can communicate through eyes, isn't it? If you show affection, sincerity, honesty, they appreciate. In that level, I think most of the mammals have sort of common experience, common ability to make friendship. I think sometimes, native people, that kind, I think may be stronger. Small population. Life not easy. So that develop certain sort of heritage, sort of because of the sense of community. Something happened there, shared by your sort of neighbors. Right? I think unlike big city, factory worker or officer or worker, it's morning time, just wake up and go to the office or factory. Then return. Very little human contact. Maybe your sort of neighbor several years, but no opportunity to make friendship. In such case, you see, we become almost like part of mission. That I think even big sort of, in different countries, the people are thinking. In city, big city, population several millions, and countryside, I think the basic sort of human sort of contact, human nature, I think more alive in those rural areas, countryside. What do you think? Do you agree? I think some, like that, isn't it? So therefore, you have still the 1,000-year-old your tradition still alive. So that's good. That's my impression. Good. So you see, any questions, any sort of serious discussions, always welcome. And a serious discussion, including argument. Me personally, as a Buddhist the student of ancient Indian Buddhist sort of tradition. So we both, this person and I myself, you see, we study through sort of, debate. Logical, sort of logician way.
Yes, logics.
Logics like that. So some heated discussion. I'm ready.
I know you've been waiting all your life for this moment to follow. But Nainoa, take his reference to the importance of language, the importance of cultural practices. He was very specific in his talk with the students yesterday about the difference between appearance and reality. Relate that to the 36 years of voyaging and lessons that have been learned over that time, and how that should reframe the way we look at today and tomorrow here in Hawaii.
Well, Your Holiness, thank you so much for the absolute honor and privilege to be with you today, and to Auntie Pua, who was in my mind, our most important living treasure about Hawaiianness and Native intelligence. She is the person that we have to hold on to and learn from. So I appreciate the beyond imagination, the honor to be here, and I'm pretty humbled into being very intimidated. So, and then John, you asked that kind of a question, and you know, I think the issue about the importance of culture and Native intelligence is it's not 36 years; it's lifetime. That unlike Auntie Pua, I grew up on this island when it was agriculture, when it was dairy farm. But I grew up at a time when I was young and it changed to statehood. And then everything shifted. That it wasn't about community, it was about money. And that us in the community had no voice. I'm just struck by how extraordinary your lifetime must have been, because you were taken from your homeland at age 23. I can't imagine that, but to some degree, that's what happened to us. Our homeland, in terms of our identity, our connections to things Hawaiian, to the community, to the land and the sea, was taken away by other forces that were driven by government and big money, and taken away in a manner that they didn't care. And what happened, I think, and what's important to suggest is that in the urbanization time that I grew up in, that whole shift and change, nobody cared. So what happened to us, Hawaiians, that were trying to find their identity in this changing world, where schools had no value for it, and that weren't practiced, that every kind of stuff, every kind of signal that was in the larger society, that we grew up in this changing world, didn't care. And so ultimately, when you look at the statistics of dying younger and making less money and less educated, you know, I was a product of that damage. That who you are doesn't matter, and that damage looks like this. It's like feeling way down deep inside of being inferior in your own homeland. And so I didn't grow up in the larger side of being immersed in Native intelligence, except my family. My mother, who was sitting in the back, she kept her door open every day for animals and cats, dogs, because they're family. I've never met a person in the world who was so fiercely protective of all living things. My grandmother spent her whole lifetime protecting the rights of children, and my father, every single day, you see him come home exhausted in trying to protect and help and change the condition of Native Hawaiians. So those values that I grew up in, amongst the change, was the foundation for which I could remain who I was, because those were Native values. Protect your community, protect your land, and take care of children. But my chance to, as a student, to find my way, the language that I tried to learn is about the language of the sea, about the language of the ocean. And I would say that my 36 years in voyaging was because we had extraordinary teachers, this coming together of an artist, a historian, an author, a visionary who saw the voyaging canoe when nobody else could see it, because we're too damaged. We felt too inferior. It's a dream that's not realistic. And a name that I would have to invoke, if you're going to talk about the 36 years, is the most courageous person I know, Eddie Aikau. That fundamentally tells you, if you believe in something, you've got to go. No matter how high the risk is, you've got to go. And then my father, who was the one who brought leadership and structure and unity, and then I think we would need to bring into this room today the one that pulled us like children through this window of time into the old world, into the old sea. Pius Maupiailuk, the last navigator, the last master navigator on the earth. And so our kind of mixed living of depression and inferiority shifted to this voyaging canoe, and then all of a sudden you're amongst these pillars of peace. And so we were privileged, we were lucky. And in those journeys, we learned about the sea, we learned about nature, we learned about the interconnections of the largest country on the earth called Polynesia, bigger than Russia, 10 million square miles, and the beauty of those people that you didn't even know who they were when you grew up, but they're your family. We learned about the issue of unity. If you don't come together, you probably die. We learned the importance of understanding and communicating and listening to the oceans. 70% of this planet. The Pacific is the most magnificent ocean, the most powerful one, and the one that we have to take care of if you want to take care of climate change. And so I mean, I can go on and on and on, but I guess my point is it was we in the urban setting had to find our way, and we didn't. We were just stepped into this extraordinary set of teachers, and I would argue to your point that the Eddies and the Maupiailuks understood in a very deep way. My father understood that Hokulea had to find Tahiti because we were in a very dangerous time. I think we're very close to cultural extinction. So what you see today was not this way 40 years ago. And if it didn't find Tahiti, I don't know. I don't know if we'd be here today. And then I think that the lessons that, in the end, that grounds me about learning about the oceans is islands. It's, islands in the sea. The only island that we have in the universe is the Earth that we know of, and it's an island in a huge, immense amount of space, and it has to be cared for. But if we're fundamentally going to do that, and even talk about that as a route, the road to peace, we've got to take care of these islands. These islands, today, if you want to feel uncomfortable, should be a place that everybody in this room should be committed to in terms of these islands being pillars of peace for the earth. And that everybody has the capacity in this room on a daily basis to make that happen. Take care of your children and your family. Strengthen your communities. It's easy. Anyway, John, I don't know what your question was, but that's my answer.
저 자수지수도 language of sea said.
Test. Poor. Can you pick up that conversation? You are of pure Hawaiian ancestry. You grew up in the rural areas that His Holiness referred to. You raised your own livestock as a family. Your cultural traditional links were never interrupted. So provide us some context for this as we look at today and tomorrow.
Aloha kako. Aloha and welcome to Hawaii. I really didn't want to talk about that, but he's forcing me to do that. But I will talk about that. I think we only have 7 minutes. Conscious about time. But I don't have a watch on me, so I won't go there. I'm going to say a little bit about what John is suggesting. I'm one of the few pure Hawaiians left. This is what we look like. See? Beautiful and round. That's what Hawaiians look like. Anyway, I was raised in Kiokaha. And Kiokaha, if anybody knows Kiokaha, it's a Hawaiian Homes
land. And so I was raised among Hawaiians. And both my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family were pure Hawaiians, but we were more acquainted with my father's side of the family, who were ranchers. And so every summer, all of us grandkids used to go to the ranch and stay with Grandma and Grandpa for this whole summer. And so we got to know that side of the family really, really well. And they were all Hawaiian ranchers, and so they all spoke Hawaiian. And so it doesn't matter where we were, whether we were in Kioka, whether we were out at Kapapala, we're still exposed to a high level of Hawaiian culture. We didn't know at the time that that was a high level or a low level or any level of Hawaiian culture. And we didn't know it until we left the community to see what was outside of the community. So while in the community, even when we went to church, there were only Hawaiians. And so we lived among the language, and we lived among the kind of lifestyle we had on Hawaiian homes. Everybody went fishing for a living. We all ate from the ocean. We all grew our own crops. We raised our own pigs and ducks and chickens and rabbits. And they had little gardens to raise in because they gave us land that didn't have a lot of dirt in it. And so, but that was our lifestyle. My mother came from a tradition of dancers. My grandmother was in hula kapu. And so that's what she taught us. She taught us about dancing. She taught us about how to chant. She taught us that these kinds of dances and these kinds of chanting had to do with nature, had to do with our environment. Okay? We didn't know the word environment at that time. They didn't have that word. You know, it wasn't until I was 57 or 58 that I found out the word environment. And so, I'm, well past that. And so I found the word environment, but with the thought in back of my mind that we knew about this. We knew about the rain. We knew about the kinds of weather systems we had and why we had the weather systems. We knew about the different moods of the ocean and how we paid attention to that because that's what we depended on for food. We knew about the volcano and how the volcano gave us land and extended our land out into the ocean. And we danced about the volcano. We danced about eruptive phases. So that wasn't culture. That was our lifestyle. And if you want to say that lifestyle is culture, then it is. But it was a lifestyle. And that's the way we lived it. And we ate poi every day and things like that. And rice and canned spam. We didn't have money for canned spam. But, and we were conscious of the fact that there were people out there that didn't think very highly of Hawaiian culture. Very, very conscious of it. But it did not impact us. We continued to do that. We continued to do what we were doing because that's all we knew. So as we were growing up, one of the things that my parents insisted is that in order for us to live in this world that we live in, and this is a Western world, there's, even if this is Hawaii, this is a Western world. In order for us to live in the Western world, we have to be educated. And so it doesn't matter whether my father just earned $200 a month. He sent us all to college. And we all became educated in that Western world. We all became brown Howleys. No, we're not. We're still brown Hawaiians. But we knew both worlds. And we knew both worlds easily. Because that was a learned world. And the other world was a world that was our lifestyle and what we grew up in. And so we could move between both worlds very easily. We still encourage our kids to go to school. They still have to go to college, but when we come home, we still learn our dances. We still learn our chants. We still talk to each other. And we live on 10 acres of land right now. And my husband subdivided it into 4 sections. So we have 3 children. Each of our children have 2.5 acres. So my grandchildren are always around. I always see them. And then when I want to get rid of them, I send them home to their parents. And we're so busy that we don't get to see each other enough. And so when we do get together, we get together as a family and we spend time together. We make that time count. It's quality time. But we still have the same lifestyle that my parents had. And it doesn't matter if this is 2012, we still sort of live in the same lifestyle that my parents lived in 1945. We still communicate the same way. Well, we have iPhones, and we have iPads, and we have computers, and we have all of that. Doesn't matter. The communication is still there. We still respect each other. We still teach our children that they can go away to school, but when they come home, this is what they're doing. This is their lifestyle, and they're going to continue to do that. We had a conversation about generations in Hilo as part of the Merrimack. And I'm going to talk about the Merrimack in a minute. And the whole idea of generations is because we do have multiple generations of people that was raised in these traditions, in the traditions of dance, in the traditions of chanting. And I guess in going to present this phenomena, and for many people it is a phenomena, because when you grow up and you become 18, that's it. You're cut from your family. You got to go out, earn your own living. Okay? We don't cut our children. They still live with us. Okay, but we don't. And we still need each other for support. And so in this lifestyle that we live in, we have developed within our family a foundation, a family foundation, 501c3. So if you want to donate money, that would be really great. I'm the president, and my daughter Kekui that chanted, she's the executive director, yeah. My daughter-in-law works for her. She's one of the great researchers that has to do with the foundation. So 501c3. Next tax around, you can count off your tax by donating to us. Okay, but the whole idea of the foundation is to elevate Hawaiian intellect. So we look at what we do, how we look at Hawaiian culture, and we elevate it, so that people don't always think that dancing hula and Hawaiian culture is cute. It is not cute. It is a serious part of our life. And it is a serious part of this world that we live in, this space that we live in, that we call home. The space, like our lifestyle, it remains the same. We always have the sun rising at the same time, and it's always going along its path to the north, to the south, to the east, and back around, rising in the east again. Our space is still the same. We still have the same waves coming in. We still have the same kind of weather systems on these islands. So it's still the same space that we live in. And all of the chants that we learned a long time ago still applies to this. All of these things that I'm talking about now. So again, the whole idea of elevating Hawaiian intellect is to get you to realize that all of these things, it's such a mystery today, climate change and all of these things, was not a mystery. It's something that they had to go through for generations, generation upon generation. We have all of this knowledge of what happened in our islands. All we have to do is pick it up and read it and understand it. And this is part of the elevation of it. Are you walking close to me because you want to cut me off? I'm not Paul. Hello. Back up, back up. Okay. Now, I can get bossy because I'm old, and old people can get very bossy. We earned our bossiness. Okay, I wanted to talk about the Merrimack because it's been very visible for the last week, and especially on TV starting Wednesday and then Thursday and Friday and Saturday, it's been on TV. So if you're looking at another channel and every once in a while you would click through Merrimack, hopefully you saw me. I was beautiful. I was. I had. No, you don't have to clap. You don't have. I have to talk, so don't clap. I had makeup on. I never wear makeup. And what else did I have on? Oh, I have new clothes by Sig Zane. And every day, anyway, that's not what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about Merrimack. The fabulous thing about Merrimack is that it deals with an old time, and it also brings us right up to today. So do you know how fabulous that? A lot of people look at Merrimack as just being a dance, a hula contest. It is a hula contest. But more than a hula contest, it also gives you these time spaces. Pay attention to that. It gives you these time spaces. It goes back to the 1600s, to the eruptions of the 1600s. It goes back to the ocean voyagers of the early times. And then it brings you right up to date and talk about Hawaii and talk about the lovely Ni'ihau chalets. And talk about all of those things that we still use today. It's a time link. And we have to appreciate that it is a time link. And some of us are very unconscious that we're going through that, but we are going through that. The other thing about Merrimack is that all of the thousands of people that come to Merrimack throughout that week, however thousands there are, we have one focus in mind, and that is hula. Do you know how powerful that is? For all of us to have one focus in mind, and that is hula. And you know why it's hula? Because most of the people that's there, if not all, are passionate about it. So what that tells us is we need to develop a passion about this space we live in. If we don't develop a passion for it, we're not going to do anything about it. And if we're just going to come in and out of Hawaii, like, okay, I'm getting on a plane, I'm going to go to North America somewhere and live there for 10 years and I'm good. Or I'm going to go to Japan, live there for 10 years and I'm good. And you don't think about Hawaii. But we have to develop a passion for this space that we live in. Because the space will always be here. It's our minds that develop what the space looks like at our time. We're responsible for it. You, me, him. We're responsible for this space now. Not 20 years from now, not 100 years from now, now. So, like Merrimack, if we all had one thing that we were passionate about, we have one focus in mind, that would be powerful. Powerful. Talk about mana. That would be top of the line mana. And nobody would be able to break through that. Because once we make up our minds to move, we're going to move on it. The other thing about Merrimack is that there's a camaraderie there. I mean, it's still a hula contest, you know, and some of the dancers are looking at other dancers. Yeah, I'm better than you, you know. And I'm going to show you that I'm better. No, they don't do that. They really don't. They used to. They don't. They used to. They don't do that anymore. For one thing, younger kumuhulas are more friendly with each other. You know, they treat each other like brothers and sisters instead of having their own little kingdom. And I know about that because I've been kumuhula for, you know, I'm 75 years old. So I've been kumuhula a long time.
Pua.
Wait, I'm going to end this and
Okay,
then you
okay.
may pour me. Don't pour me before that. Okay, so there's a camaraderie among people that come, whether they come from Japan, whether they come from Mexico, whether they come from the U.S., United States. They sit down in that room before everything goes on, and they start talking to each other. And they're kind with each other. And they share food with each other. And they exchange gifts with each other. It's wonderful. The camaraderie is wonderful. And it's all because they have one thing in mind, is hula, and promoting hula the best way they can. And that is a lesson in itself. Camaraderie, the whole idea of taking you through the span of time. You know, you're going through zones of time very, very quickly. You have things that this whole idea of focusing on one subject, and the one subject has to do with longevity. And so when we focus on the subject of these islands, we have to focus on longevity. And it doesn't have to do with always saying something negative. It has to do with, it starts today. And from today, what we're going to look forward tomorrow. Okay? Instead of always being negative about, oh, putting us, you know, was this way, was that way. I don't care about that. I will fight my battles today. Okay.
Beautiful. I got to tell you that the research that her Pua's team has been doing have identified more than 500 names for rain, I believe more than 400 names for clouds, which would suggest that if you're a weatherman back then, saying that it was partly cloudy tomorrow would not be sufficient. But that work is incredible. Your Holiness, as you can tell, there is deep passion on the ocean, deep passion from the watersheds to the coastal zones here in the islands. Pua's message about finding a passion, Nainoa's message about having to commit ourselves in this room because the energy to correct it is in this room. The Hawaiian culture is deeply rooted. You have been a champion of native cultures, perpetuating themselves in the language. At this moment in this panel, could we transition to your message of universal responsibility that we have as native peoples around the world, not just here in Hawaii?
The concept of universal responsibility, I think that's something different, different field or different level. As I mentioned, that concept on the level of humanity, not this nation, not that nation, or like that, or south, west, east, and like that. because many problems in past and today also. Many problems, including violence, war, not based on humanity concept, but my nation, my country, my religion. So the nationalities, different countries, different religious belief, and also different color, different races. That's actually, these are the sort of factor we divide. For example, when I meet you here, if I emphasize I'm Buddhist, I'm Tibetan, that sort of way of thinking itself make distance. I'm Buddhist. These are not Buddhist. I'm Tibetan. You are Hawaii. Then you see problems in order to gain for me, for us, for my community. Don't care about others' sort of the feeling. So that's the source of problem. So now counter for that, we must think humanity, same. I do not want suffering. They also human beings do not want suffering. So the sense of respect as the human brothers, sisters. Once we develop that kind of sort of real sort of
Sense of
sense of oneness of humanity, then no basis of killing each other. Mutual respect. And think about common value. In ancient time, like I think Hawaii people or Tibetan, they're self-sufficient and remain completely sort of, I think, isolated, or even I think the concept of complete independence. Now today's reality, no longer that. For example, the global economy and everything. Now I think Hawaii people sort of, your economy much depend on other countries. So economically, you see, heavily interdependent. That's the nature. Then also now, time come, we have to think about humanity because of the population. Many years ago, in London, I think maybe 80s, one occasion, some I sort of talk and then some discussion with some sort of specialist. At that time, world population, 6 billion. So they say, of course, firstly, there's huge gap, rich and poor, northerner, southerner. Sort of on the global level. Then national level, like America, very rich country. But in America, there are a lot of poor people. Even Washington, the capital of the richest country, suburbs. or Washington. Many poor people there. So this gap, how much gap here in Hawaii? Oh. So recently I was in Latin America, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil. So each sort of was a place when I give talk, I ask audience, gap rich and poor, small or big, then response like that. Then another thing, the corruptions, small or big again. So now we have to think how to sort of reduce. Yes, how to reduce this gap, rich and poor, global level and national level also. So then you see these experts, you see, told me if or when the southern world's living standard raised up to northerners sort of because of the living standard, then 6 billion population already questionable the nature resources whether it's sufficient or not. Now already 7 billion. Gap still there. So we have to think, now the population still increasing. So next 2 decades, 3 decades, I think the 8 billions, 9 billions. So either we carry sort of family plan effectively, or and then I think the nature, or you see so that's the sort of now today's reality. We are facing problem, not this nation, that country, but entire humanity now facing problem. So we have to think seriously about the future of humanity. So the many sort of disasters mainly come from concept of each individual sort of each individual sort of what's the identity. So first we have to think about humanity. If humanity peaceful, happy, adequate sort of facility, then each country, each nation get because of the benefit. If humanity face problem, each individual country, then there's no question they will suffer. And particularly weaker section, weaker nation, like we Tibetan and also Hawaii people, I think weaker. So we will suffer. So therefore, we have to think about humanity. Then second, each individual's as the community or country, they have their own cultural heritage, these things. As I mentioned earlier, cultural heritage is something suitable, very suited to the concerned people, because you see the environment or because of the climate, everything. You mentioned you in your own language, Karsa.
How many words for the rain or the clouds?
500. You mentioned the clouds 400, isn't it?
More than 400.
I would like to have translation. I think, except a few lakes here and there in Tibet, but we never saw close with ocean. So in Tibetan language, I think few words about rain, about the clouds. So this is good. Whereas you see, I think in certain field, which you see available in Tibet, not others, You see, we have certain sort of more sort of vocabulary like that. So in any way, this is useful. I think to scientists also, I think useful to different more sort of precise name of different rains or different sort of clouds. It's good. Whether some relation in daily life or not, for scholars, it is useful. So you should not keep in your own language. But you should translate, at least you see the meaning.
No.
I think important. So first we should think about humanity. Then next, think about individual's interest. There are also, as you mentioned, time changing. Time change, not necessarily bad. But it depends how to utilize time by humanity. If you use time wrong way, destructive way, then very bad. Use time properly, no force can stop time. And meantime, the population change. Now I think modern technology, science, and brought immense benefit to humanity. Without sort of modern technology, we cannot meet each other. I think I will remain Tibet and with few yaks.
Tibetan buffaloes.
So like that. So the technology really, I think, brought a lot of comfort for human being.
Yep.
So we have to accept that. The meantime, as I mentioned earlier, cultural heritage is not part of technology, not part of material. Because of the material. Cultural aspect is mind, related with mind. So that's very important. Technology, you see, cannot produce peace of mind, calm mind. Modern medicine, you see, cannot sort of produce calm mind. Alcohol, drugs, simply, you see, create our brain some dull way.
Yes, dull and numb.
That's, I think, actually, I think very bad. Our intelligence is something very marvelous thing about human being. If that become dull, right? That's really pity, right? Disaster. So, our intelligence also have the ability to create inner peace, to create self-confidence, which counterforce mental disturbances. Other animals cannot do that. Only we human beings. So in any way, so you see, preserve your own cultural heritage. And culture, there are also, you see, I always make distinction. Right from the beginning, when we become refugee, we make distinction. One part of cultural heritage, something very benefit to our daily life, and particularly when we're passing through difficult period. That kind of culture is really worthwhile to preserve. A certain way of life, cultural heritage, that now outdated. So simply it's put in museum. Okay, read, past, that kind of things. But not relevant to today's life. So that will go. No use to preserve that. So I made this distinction. I think I should say we made that distinction. All this effort not, you see, carried by me alone, but it's our sort of community carried like that. So that's the reason why I emphasize the importance of oneness of humanity, a sense of global sort of responsibility. I found among the scientists I really found that spirit. They are not talking, I belong America, I belong India. They are not talking. They are really, truly, see, they talking. Because of that. They are common sort of today, common interest or common field. Among the religious field also, you say a Buddhist, Japan, Japanese or Chinese or Indian or Thailand, or, no problem. Like Christians, we can find in Vedaka some Filipinos, some Chinese, so far no Tibetan. Like that, you see, they're oneness. So one way, the religions also, you see, because of the make sort of a common thing. But sometimes that also creates more problems. Like that. Once, you see, we develop, small, small we, and them, they. Then, you see, that's the basis of violence. We must create big we, entire 7 billion human beings, we. Then, I think the world will be much happier.
Nainoa, if you take his message, His Holiness's message about universal responsibility, and overlay that with the upcoming worldwide voyage in 2013 that the Voyagers are now preparing for, how does that inform the voyage?
Well, first of all, thank you. My heart is lifted by your words because everything you say is things that we are concerned with but haven't found solutions for. And I agree that humanity has to come together. And in order to do that, you got to break down the walls of nationalism. When I was a young boy, when TV was black and white, there was I don't remember the words, but I remember the eyes of this German lady. It was a picture, black and white, of a crushed city by all the bombing. And there was a lady there. It was the horror in her eyes when she found out that Germany wasn't a just country. It wasn't a country that was worth fighting for and worth dying for and blowing up your cities for. That their whole national intention and effort was horrific. And she didn't know. She didn't know until the end of the war. And that horror in her eyes was so deep that I never forgot it since a young child. When I look at, the worldwide voyage is just it's just what we're supposed to do, is to help build a layer around the earth of connections with humanity, that people have a chance to come together. I think what's going to happen on the earth to get humanity to come together is going to be through young people. But I think with technology, you can't have the walls of Germany be so ignorant by their leadership and keep them in the dark and lie. You can't do that because children today can talk in Hawaii, can talk to children in Tibet. They can talk to any child in Tibet. I think the humanity is going to come from the intelligence and the education and the interconnections that are going to happen and are happening between young people. One world, one ocean is going to come from those ability to connect through technology, but also you have to have the faith and the belief that in the education of children from a human way, from the values of humankind, that they are going to shift the earth. And all the kinds of issues that we couldn't solve in our generations will be. So the worldwide voyage is it's about being able to believe and visualize that movement of human beings coming together. That the legitimate, peer-reviewed, 30 years of science that we look at today, if you're not terrified, then you don't understand the data. But at the same time, where the hope comes from is this new emergence of children way more informed, way more connected, way more educated. And for instance, when I was in high school, ecology wasn't taught. Sustainability wasn't a word. Sustainability is the biggest issue of our time that we can't solve. And if we don't, then the consequences for humankind are going to be immensely painful. The Earth's going to shift, and it is. But we're not going to shift with it. And so the shifts away from industrialization, the shifts away from kind of just absurd consumerism, the need to find equality between the great human rights issue of our time is finding access of all children to quality education. And we have to do that, but we can. But we can. And that even though you start to deal with the horrible faces of poverty, you're not going to solve that unless you take care of the earth. And that this issue of population is an issue of education. It's an issue of humankind, sets a new set of values. And I will argue that's an old set of values that I think, and I say this with all humility, the earth is lucky that the Antipuas are here. The earth is lucky that you have Lili Kala that would stand up for what's right for Native Hawaiians. And it's not for a right for us. It's to remember and never forget the 2,000-year legacy of living extraordinarily on these islands in a sustainable way. And that what transfers to them in terms of what I hear His Holiness saying, that you ain't going to come together if it isn't about caring values. You're not going to come together unless humankind can embrace the diversity of the earth in a way that we respect it and there's tolerance and acceptance so that we all remain kind. Otherwise, you ain't got a shot. Then you will fight. You will fight. And the tools we have now to fight are so scary. And I would just leave you with that history, the heritage that's embedded in this dirt that you stand on. Our ancestors, when you talk about Hawaiian intelligence, that's such a deep question because I can't answer that. It's so deeply rooted in ancestors I don't even know. But they were successful. So when you look at the gift that Hawaii has for humanity, it's to never forget that story and try to figure out to be intelligent enough to live that story. And the other is that in Hawaii, if you're going to look for a gift that you can give the earth, it would be where my great friend Lacey Beach would say, the best gift that Hawaii has is that its culture is still kind. That its culture is still kind. And here, all this issue of diversity is amongst us every day. That we live in different kind of pockets of diversity, but there is, in Hawaii, we still aloha. In Hawaii, we still take care. And that is the most important thing that has to get sustained into the minds and hearts of children. So I would, again, humbly just fundamentally say, Hawaii needs to be a pillar of peace. The earth needs it. So thank you.
Kelvin, can you get to Nainoa? There are certain gifts. Earlier, Kekuhi and Pua gifted His Holiness with the Mele Inoa. A closing thought, Pua?
Yeah, I want to take off on that.
Yeah.
And that.
Please.
Oh,
Pua,
okay.
yeah.
How many of us have Facebook? Come on, let's see. I don't know either. How many of you have Twitter? I don't have either. But it doesn't mean that for those of you that have Facebook, you know what he was talking about as far as communication is concerned? How many friends do you have on Facebook? What does that show? Give me a number. 300. There's 300 friends on Facebook. So what we're saying here, as I understand, is that communication is not a problem. It is not a problem. And as he's saying, you know, the young people are really good on texting, and they text everybody in the world. So again, communication is not a problem. You can get out there, and you can put out ideas, and people will pick up on it and start moving with it. It's a great thing. Technology is a great thing. You know, and although I come from a different world, I'm a techie. You know, I have 4 computers, I have iPad, I have all of that. I have iPhones, and it's a necessary part of who we are today, that idea of communication. Now, when I talked about hula, I wasn't talking about hula per se. I was talking about having a commonality. And all of this that we're talking about humanity, is what that commonality is about. So when we get into the hula world and we get into Maramana, that commonality is hula, but it's hula among humanity. So in order for us to do anything about humanity, we have to have a commonality between all of us. And if the commonality doesn't exist, then we spread it out and make it exist. And how do we spread it out? Communication. And it's not formal communication, it's informal communication, such as Facebook, such as your computer, and all of that. It can go a long ways. But commonality is a very important focus for us. Religion is really difficult to talk through. But we have other commonalities out there. And the thing about hula that is a commonality is that it gets to you individually. And so it allows the individual to shine, to bring out its soul. That's what people want to do. They want to be able to bring out their soul. And once they have their soul out, they will draw other people in. That's what commonality is all about.
Paul, one of the commonalities we have right now is we're out of time. And no,
And I was done.
No, I know. No, I know.
I'm for time.
I know. You know, this reminds me of Facebook. Not too long ago, you and I were talking about PVC pipe in Waipio. So
Yeah, we were.
the technology was there. Nainoa, the reason that the presentation of your gifts and why you selected those paddles, and for a number of reasons, we need to bring this to closure.
Yeah.
Please, Nainoa.
Your Holiness, these paddles were made by friends of mine. They are made of coal wood, down the center, down the shaft, and that is symbolic and representative of the strength of our culture. But it's made for laminated other kinds of woods from around the world, which is reflective of your need to look at ourselves more from human values and the power of humanity. So with great humility, I would like to place one of these paddles with Auntie Pua, just to thank her for all that she has done for her whole lifetime, carrying her family in such a special way. On behalf of our heritage and our children, we humbly give this gift.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You know, at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to rise, please. And as our final parting gift to His Holiness, who we thank tremendously for spending the time with us today and helping us to bring focus to our life here on the islands as Native peoples and as a Native culture. At this time, we would like to sing Hawaii Aloha and ask Mayor Carvalho to lead us. He was early, you know.
Do.
We would like to ask all of you, if all of you would remain seated and allow His Holiness to say his final words and depart.
Chikishabre. Ka. Ka. Oh. Oh. This reminds me, in Thailand, the monk, usually you carry something. I think in order to concentrate, perhaps I think a short moment is cut out because of the eye sort of contact with. So here I can use this strong light. So in any way, you see, Buddhist literature use sort of what's the way of a poem where the tanjo ki true chela danes and dungegi jasole gawa said.
In the Buddhist literatures, we have poetic expressions which says, by using this precious human life as a boat, then you can cross the ocean of suffering.
So, I am Buddhist. So this, I think, can the
Paddle.
the kasoda that the dus ni
No.
tandam daba da guzo deme ten shebe da kala tandam shebe tandam daba shebe shirda guzo gi shenbeng sambe any jawa ni the den any dreva such.
So Holiness would like to think it this way that, and he could use this paddle, and imagine there's another paddle, like two of those, and one of these, to use the Buddhist language, we use this is the paddle of ultimate wisdom. That sees the way everything actually exists, and that other paddle, symbolize the conventional altruism, and by using these two paddles, then he can paddle and cross the ocean of suffering.
In reality, our land, as I mentioned earlier, no sea,
No ocean.
so no ocean. So you see, not much use this. And those rivers, very strong current, right?
Right.
In Kalayari.
So we do have some big rivers, but they have strong currents, so it would be very hard to paddle on that.
Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
rise as His Holiness exits, and please remain in the room as he exits to your right.
저, 당연하다. 제다시 표고 있나 그전. 제다 유배. 됐지. On scarf. Thank you. 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 I usually describe, see, this is a scarf. This tradition come from India. In India, you see, in order to show respect, the guest or the guest, no, they are so called the latitude,
Also turban.
Turban, you see the leg, because of that.
Yes, yeah, roll down.
Oh, and you see, that's the way of sort of sort of receive or welcome with respect. So this original come from India. Then this Tibetan used to use that tradition. But this material in the past made in China. With, you see, so Tibetan order, so there is Tibetan scriptures, our sort of script. The script. You see, this mentioned due to Buddha or God. You see, the person who gave this be happy day and night. So this also is a symbolized harmony. India's tradition, made in China, you by Tibetan. Okay.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Once again, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 오늘 볼에 가다시.
Yes, to take our
요 내 가서 singer.
song leader.
Thank you. Bye bye. Hmm? Okay. 저는 오늘 얘기 기슈. 나도 성우다. I prefer this way. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Aloha. And we'd like to ask all of you to exit to your left. And as you exit, please go by. There are gifts from Pierre and Pam Omidyar that you will treasure. And thank you for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to the lunch, you do not pick up your gifts. You'll receive them later. So those going to the lunch, go right
Hi.
downstairs. Those who are here just for the
Yeah, please
panel,
do.
just go right out, and your gifts are right outside the door.
The only time
Thank
I see
you.
is on